How can you reframe stress and use it to build your resilience? This is the Leaders of Transformation podcast. And on this show, we feature difference makers and world changers who are disrupting for good. I'm your host, Nicole Jansen, and our guest today is Dr. Deborah Gilboa. She is a resilience expert who works with families, educators, executives, and businesses to help identify the mindset and strategies that turn stress into an advantage. She is a board certified attending family physician and a leading media personality seen regularly on Today, Good Morning America, and is the resilience expert for the doctors. She is also featured frequently on Washington Post, New York Times, Huffington Post, and many other media outlets. Today, we're going to talk about her new book, From Stressed to Resilient, The Guide to Handle More and Feel It Less. Why our brains hate change, the truth behind stress, and 8 key skills to build resilience in your life and career. Now, before we dive in, I do want to do a shout out to Daniel Geffen and his publicity team for introducing me to Dr. G. Thank you to them. I always love just to appreciate those who support this show, and so they certainly do. So thank you for that. Let me just bring on Dr. G. Dr. G, welcome to Leaders Transformation.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here.
Awesome. I'm just great to have you here. Resilience, stress. This is a topic that over the last couple of years. Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely a thing, especially over the last few years, where we've always dealt with stress and having to be more resilient as successful business people and in any arena that you want to be successful in. However, now it's kind of heightened, and with technology, and I know you talk about this in your book, technology, and of course then COVID and all the different changes, and change is good, change is wonderful, and it can also be really scary. So I'm looking forward to your input on this. Now, before we do that, this podcast is actually brought to you by my training and coaching company. And if you are a leader who loves to be better, do better, make a greater impact in the world, I have a free gift for you. And you can go on my website at leadersoftransformation.com/coaching, and you can book a free consultation with me, and we can discuss your goals, your objectives, where you are right now, and what's it going to take you from where you are to where you want to be, and to really be the leader of transformation that you're capable of being. So I encourage you to take advantage of that. And you can go to, again, leadersoftransformation.com/coaching, and there is a scheduling link on that page. All right, coming back to our conversation here, let's start off with talking about stress. How do you define stress?
I think the problem here is not so much how I would define it medically, it's what it's come to mean in our society. When I was a medical student, and this is going back, 20 years plus, our professors used to say, stress is the new smoking. Tell your patients to avoid it at all costs. And I don't think that would really surprise you. As somebody who's lived in the world, you probably heard, avoid stress, minimize stress, reduce stress, or it'll kill you, right?
Yes.
That's a little bit like me saying, avoid breathing, minimize breathing, or breathing will kill you. You have to breathe or else you'll die. And you have to, if you're living in the world, you're experiencing stress. And I got really struck by this dichotomy of everybody has stress. How can I, in good conscience, tell my patients, well, if you want to be healthier, avoid stress? It sounded like I was saying to them, it's your fault if stress is impacting you negatively. If you're having a decreased immune system, worsening mental health, increasing weight, increasing heart disease, increasing diabetes, and stress can cause all of those things. But what am I saying? I'm saying by living your life, you're causing those things. That didn't make any sense to me. And it was not helpful.
Yeah.
And I take this oath, right? First, do no harm. Blaming people for their physical situation, helping people see how small changes could make things better. That's my job, for sure. But blaming people for what's going on in their bodies and their minds and in their lives, not helpful and damaging. Stress is our ability to navigate change. It's our brain's reaction to all change, even the good stuff, even the stuff we want. I was really struck by what you were saying, Nicole, about the free call that you offer and the service really that you're doing for leaders. You talked about if people want to be a leader of transformation. My observation and the research that I've done and others have done in the business world is that, this is going to be a little weird to say, we only need leaders when there's change.
Yes.
If your company, let's say you own a movie theater, and for the next 2 weeks, the movies aren't going to change, the ticket price isn't going to change, the policies aren't going to change, the schedule isn't going to change, go on your vacation now. Because this is the 10 days, if that really holds, of the entire year where your company doesn't really need you. I love your business model because you're saying, hey, leaders, you're always going to be leading change. Do you want to be leading transformation? Or do you want to just be like having that change tiger by the tail and getting whipped around by it? And that's such a crucial distinction because it's only through change that we need to lead.
Yeah.
All change is stressful, but you cannot get the mission you want, the experiences you want, the life you want without change.
So why is change so uncomfortable from your perspective?
So it is stressful for a purely neuroscience reason. Your brain has a million functions, Nicole, more actually. Even as we're just sitting here talking, your brain's taking care of business in lots of ways in your body, right?
Yeah.
We learned that in elementary school. Oh, your body controls your breathing and your digestion and your heartbeat. And your brain has a million functions, but it has one job. Do you know what the one job is?
Survive?
Yes, to keep you alive. That's it.
Yeah.
That is the whole mission right there. Your brain is like, keep you alive. The good news, we are currently alive. The bad news, all change is suspect because the brain knows, well, we're currently alive. It'll be a change that kills us. So every single change, whether it is a new COVID variant that you heard about as you walk past someone you don't know at the grocery store, or winning the lottery, or your phone updating its operating system, your brain says, okay, but could we die? Every single change, it has these safety mechanisms built in the part of the brain called the amygdala. The amygdala modulates a lot of our emotional and fear responses. It has 3 speed bumps to try and slow us down in the face of all change, even the good stuff. Even you pitch a new big client that would make your year, and your brain goes, yeah, but could we die though? And so the 3 safety mechanisms are, what could I lose? Can I trust this? And what will be uncomfortable? And even while you may be saying to me, yeah, but when I get good news, I feel happy, proud, excited, all true, fantastic, because adults know that you can hold different, sometimes opposing emotions at the same time. You may be feeling happy, excited, proud. Your brain is still ticking through, what could we lose? Can we trust this? And what's uncomfortable? Nicole, would you be willing to share a good change that you navigated in the last year or 2?
A good change. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
good news
There's
you got, for example.
so many.
What kind
Well, I got remarried. I actually
Great.
married my ex-husband.
Nice. Okay, so let's think about as soon as whatever that proposal, and I don't necessarily mean traditional proposal, I mean you guys proposed this idea to each other and you agreed to it. I hope there was a part of you that was like elated and excited and happy and relieved. There was probably also, even in your conscious mind, a part of you that's like, wait, but am I
Oh,
going to lose
yes.
my current setup, right? Are there things that I have changed since my divorce that really worked for me? What could I lose? Is it going to seriously negatively impact my relationship with my family of origin, right? Somebody who was not a fan of this marriage, or with, I don't know if you have children, but one of our kids or a niece or nephew that you're close to, or just, do I want to share a bed with this person again? Like, is that going to hurt me in some way? Can I trust this? What makes me think it's going to work out this time? What's going to be different? Will I be what I promised I would be in this situation? Can I do it? And that's the distrust. And what's going to be uncomfortable? There were things, because there are about any human, that kind of bugged you about sharing space with that person. So will that discomfort still be there? How has my body changed since the last time I was naked with that person? And am I comfortable showing them that? There's all these questions that our brain pops up just trying to keep us safe. What could I lose? What don't I trust about this? What will be uncomfortable about this? Resilience is in how you navigate that. It is not in your ability to turn off that safety mechanism. And
Yeah.
leaders get stuck here because we have a false narrative around change and leadership, that a person's resistance to change is either a bad leader, right? If they were a good enough leader, I'd have an easier time with change, or it's a referendum on the character of the team who's having trouble with the change. So when a team is having trouble with change, we have this narrative that either says bad leadership. If it was good leadership, they would welcome change. Nope. Even great leadership doesn't change your brain chemistry. Or if they were good people, if they weren't obstinate, unmotivated, just kind of lousy humans, they would welcome this change. Nope. You can be Mother Teresa, can't change brain chemistry. When leaders look at change resistance, people voicing that loss, that distrust, that discomfort, and not moving through it to the good news, the part we're going to talk about where you navigate that change, they think, well, somebody's done something wrong here. And that's not true. It's a reflex. It's such a deep-seated reflex that there's this analogy that I like to use because I'm a family doctor, as you mentioned, and so I do a lot of well child checkups. So like yesterday, I had a 7-year-old in my office for a well check, sit him up on the table, and we're talking, and he lets me listen to his heart with my stethoscope. I let him listen to his heart with my stethoscope. And then at some point, I take my reflex hammer and I tap his knee. Now, if I stand right in front of him when I tap his knee, what's going to happen to me?
You're going to get kicked.
Right. And should that little boy's mom chastise him and be like, that's disrespectful, don't kick the doctor?
No.
No,
Yeah.
because
It's a great
it's a
analogy.
reflex. Right.
Yeah.
I'm the idiot who stood right in front of him when I tapped him with the reflex hammer. And yet leaders insist on standing right in front of our people when we announce change. And then we get frustrated when we get kicked. What we have to do is to learn it's a reflex. I expect this. No problem. Let the reflex happen. Stand to the side. Don't leave the room. Just stand to the side. Let the person kick for a sec. And then help them understand it and navigate it.
Yeah. What I'm hearing in that is also there's, when we don't do it well, we judge. We judge them. We judge us. There's a lot of judgment going on there. And what you're talking about is releasing the judgment around it so that you can actually get to the transformation, you can get to the shift, the collaboration, whatever is going to come out of that.
If I can switch analogies, I want leaders to look at those reflexes as the airbag. So if your employee told you they were in a car accident on the way to work and the airbag deployed, you'd say, oh, well, I'm glad the airbag deployed and that you're okay. These are airbags, and they're just deploying to make sure we're okay. It's a little bit messy when the airbag deploys. I don't know if you've ever been through it, but it's a little bit messy. It's a little hard to clean up from, but it's a safety mechanism. And you're absolutely right. But the only thing that somebody's doing wrong in that situation is the judging part, because causing the reflex, you can't help it. Every change causes the reflex. Now, in different situations and different people, we navigate that part faster or slower. But it's not a fixed commodity. It's not a fixed trait, this resilience. Resilience is the ability to navigate change with intention and purpose. So that's what we want. We all want for ourselves, for our teams, everybody in our world. We want them to be able to navigate that change with intention and purpose. We don't have to ask them not to feel the loss and distrust and discomfort. We just want them to be able to move to the next step, which is thinking about what choices we have, because that turns down the amygdala. It does not turn it off. We cannot turn off this safety mechanism. Okay. Any more than you can disengage your airbags, or at least if you can, you shouldn't. So it turns down the amygdala and allows us to get on with the work of choice and engagement and reunification. We can talk about what those mean. But it isn't a fixed trait. And the reason I mention that is, in general, Nicole, I don't know you well, but I would imagine you navigate change pretty well. And you probably pride yourself on it. You pride yourself on taking things, because so many entrepreneurs do, on taking things and adapting to them and moving forward, even when they're really hard. And that's wonderful. But I bet, and I'm not asking you to share it, but I bet you can imagine a circumstance where, because of what's really important to you or experiences you've been through in the past, that would be much harder. And it doesn't mean you're not a resilient person. It means resilience is a growth commodity. The good news about that is we can learn it and strengthen it and build it. And the flip side of that coin is that certain situations can drain it in resilient people.
This is very interesting. Yeah. So to your point, and asking me, or kind of not asking, but like the rhetorical question, it's interesting because the last probably 12, 15 years have just been so crazy. So many different things have happened, so many challenges, so much adversity. And in the process of that, it's also been the greatest growth period of my life, where I thought I had gotten to a point of resilience and insight and success and all that. Nothing held a candle to the level of growth that I went through during this period of time. So when COVID hit, for example, and everybody was freaking out because there was all these changes, I was like, oh, okay, got it. Right. So what do we need to do? But that was only because, not because of like, I'm all that and calm, this Zen person. It's because I had already been through so much and had survived through it and had learned to grow through it, that and learn to navigate that I was actually able to look at it in a way, through a different lens, and not
But
get hijacked.
you're not giving yourself enough credit, because just going through something hard isn't enough to build resilience.
Oh,
Here's
yes,
why I say
that's
that.
true.
I know
There's a lot of people that have gone through it and get stuck there. Yeah.
Right. I know we say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but it is my personal and professional observation that for the most part, what doesn't kill you makes you miserable. So, and without telling me who, do you know someone that every time they go through something hard, it is just overwhelming and oppressive and they can't get past it?
Yes.
So if what doesn't kill you made you stronger automatically, we would stop knowing people like that. They would eventually get stronger. And so it takes a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit of intentionality. I'm big on analogies. I like the analogy of exercise. If I want to be able to run 5 miles in a year, and right now I can't run 1, I can build myself up to it. Now, doesn't help me to go out running if I'm already injured. I got to recover first. So if you use that analogy for building resilience and managing stress, if I want to be able to handle the stress of my life now, plus a bigger professional opportunity and a new relationship, we'll just say those 2 changes represent a lot of stress, but they're positive changes. They're getting me towards the life I want. Okay. Well, I can build up to them. If I'm currently injured, if I'm currently playing injured, I need some recovery time first. But if I'm a little bit intentional, I can build myself so that the amount of stress that feels overwhelming right now, which really wins me, will be like running a mile right now, really wins me. And in a year, with a little bit of intentionality and maybe some coaching from somebody like you, I could be able to run that 5 miles or navigate those bigger stressors. And saying, well, I'll just, I've been through hard stuff, so I should be fine, is a little bit like me saying, I'm going to prepare for this marathon by forgetting where I parked my car in the parking lot every day. Right? It is a little bit of exercise, but it's not going to get me there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a great point, because I think that's why I want us to get into the skills and the ways that we can actually build this resilience. You've been talking about it, but specifically, what are some of the things that people can do right now? And I know that one of the things, and I related to a lot of them in that you had in your book, because I was like, what am I learning? How can and even taking ownership and all these different things that I did in the process of those years, rather than just getting better, that cliche. But really it is about learning through the process. How can I use this as an opportunity to grow and to get stronger with that intentionality, versus letting it overcome me. And I think it's heartbreaking when you see, it's sad. Like for me, like I see people and it's just, you want to go, there's something greater on the other side. And if you don't see that, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, without vision, people perish. If you don't have something to look forward to, if you don't believe that it's possible, that you can get stuck in the what is. So from your perspective, where does belief fit into this. Like, I know for myself, I'd be like, I can figure this out. That was something I had a belief about this. Like, I can figure this out. I can get past this. This too shall pass, and I'm going to learn from it. And I want to learn as much as I can because I don't want to repeat this exercise. I don't want to keep going back to remedial training to get the lesson.
I think that belief and faith can be huge supports. I don't think they're the only way to get there. The social science definition that I use of resilience, I mentioned before, but I want to repeat it. It's the ability to navigate change, not just adversity, but all change, even the good stuff. The ability to navigate change with intention and purpose. And there are times when things are so difficult or stacked against us or frustrating or seemingly out of our control that it is hard to hang on to that vision that you're talking about. But one thing we can always control is our purpose. If I can, I'll use a personal example just to explain what I mean. My mom of blessed memory was diagnosed with a terminal condition, and I could not control the outcome. I'm a doctor. I want to be able to. I knew what I wish would happen, but it became increasingly clear to me and to her that this was going to be the thing that killed her. This was going to be the change that killed her. So what was my purpose, right? I had to figure out if navigating change with intention and purpose, I had to figure out what's my purpose. My purpose became how to be the kind of daughter I would be glad I was when she passed away and still be the mom I needed to be. I had 4 kids. My boys at that time were 6, 8, 10, and 12. So, and lived in a different state than my mom, and I'm an only child, right? So you can see how there were some logistics that felt not insurmountable, but big. So my purpose became be the kind of daughter I want to have been when this is done. And I didn't always succeed. Please don't misunderstand. But I made that the north of my compass for that time period. And whenever there was a decision, do I fly to be there with her for this thing? How long do I stay? What do I do? My true north was, how do I be the kind of daughter I want to be and still be the mom my kids need me to be, right? So balance that as best I could. And every time I felt like I got it wrong, which was a lot of the time, just try again. And sometimes it meant having the conversations with her that were harder. And sometimes it meant biting my tongue and shutting up. And sometimes it meant showing up. And sometimes it meant explaining to her why I couldn't show up. She was not unaware of her 4 grandchildren. So using that purpose, and you can always pick your purpose. You can't always control whether you get there or not, but you can always pick what you aim for. And that is something we have control over. And that knowledge that we can control that piece, even though I couldn't control the diagnosis, the procedure, the birthday my kid had, the whatever, I could control that purpose.
Yeah, that brings up a question. You mentioned the word control. How often do we try to control things so much that we resist the change because some of it's out of our control?
Every day.
Yeah.
I'm that kind of person. Like, I am sure that I can control everything into perfection, and I have to and so the world keeps conspiring to remind me that that is not the case. Listen, when I was doing this research, I was doing it because I noticed for my patients, and I'm a family doctor, I'm a medical doctor, I'm not seeing people in therapy, but I talk to people a lot about what's going on with them and what they're going through. And I was noticing this gap between helping people recover from illness or injury and them truly feeling well. And the medical literature calls that gap patient resilience. And I thought, okay, what is that? And how do I help my patients build more of that? Or is it not possible? Is it like eye color? Is it a fixed trait? So I was happy to find in our early research that it is not a fixed trait, that it changes over time. It doesn't always go up. It's affected by circumstance, which might seem like a bad thing, but actually is a good thing, because then we were able to measure it and try certain interventions and see that it grew in people when we were just a little bit intentional. I'm talking about 10% intentional, I'm not talking about turning your life upside down for a new philosophy and way of approaching everything. As a matter of fact, what we discovered is that when we say resilience, we're talking about these 8 skills. What I like about skills is I can learn skills. And when we rattle these 8 off, which I will in a minute with your permission, you're going to listen to them and you're going to realize you already have a little bit or a lot of each of these. There's some you're going to be like, oh, I do that. And some you're going to be like, well, I have done that, but I don't feel as competent at it. But that means you have at least a little bit of each of these 8 skills. as an adult. So since that's the case, it's a matter of polishing what you have. Like if one of these skills was to ski down a mountain, I'd be like, well, I'm starting from zero there. That looks horrifying and I've never done it and I don't know how. But you're not starting from zero with any of these. Can I tell you what they are?
Please, yes. And I'm actually pulling them up also in the book.
Great. And I'm happy to talk in depth about any one of them, but I know people are like, name the 8 already. So these are in no particular order because you might call on one or another of these depending on your particular situation, your personality, your needs, and it might change. The 8 skills are building connections with other people, setting boundaries around what you will and won't do, opening to different possibilities in the face of change, managing discomfort, setting that goal, that purpose, finding options, taking action, and persevering.
Which is your favorite?
Well, if I could wave a magic wand and give one of them to the entire world, it would be the ability to manage discomfort. When we were doing this research and we found these 3 reflexes, the loss, the distrust, and the discomfort, when we were first doing this research in 2016, 17, I thought loss must be the hardest one for people to get through because I've seen personally and professionally the ravages of grief and how unpredictable it is and how it can swamp people. And then during the pandemic, given the political divides we've seen in North America and some of the other things happening, I thought, oh, maybe I was wrong and it's distrust that's hardest for people to break through. But it turns out when you look to the actual research, most people get stuck, meaning don't move to choice, the longest and the most dangerously in discomfort. Believe it or not, that's what drives people to really negative coping behaviors. It's not the loss and the distrust so much as it is the discomfort that drive people to substance abuse, to damaging their relationships, to walking away from useful employment, to blowing up their lives, or apathetically withdrawing entirely so their life blows up without them. It's discomfort that we struggle with the most. So if I could just wave a magic wand, I'd help everybody with managing discomfort in neutral or healthy ways.
This reminds me of Tony Robbins. He talks about, we do things either for avoiding pain or seeking pleasure. And what you're talking about is that pain avoidance. We don't want to feel uncomfortable.
Bam.
Yeah. There is a point though, you have to shift over to seeking pleasure rather than just always avoiding something. Or in like your case, I love what you said there in the beginning about stress. You can't avoid it. It is what it is. It's going to show up. I mean, in the last several years, I mentioned about my divorce, but also my parents both died, and all this stuff happened. And it was like, I can't avoid that. It's going to happen. Besides the fact that, of course, death is inevitable for all of us. So we're going to lose people around us one way or the other. And we need to know how to deal with that.
Look, the truth is that a small percentage of the stress we face is useless and avoidable. And if that's the case, walk away.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is unavoidable, like you're saying. I mean, when my mom got that diagnosis, I could have been like, well, I can't deal with this. I'll check in 2 years and see if you're still around. But I wasn't going to do that, right? That's not aligned with the kind of person I want to be. That's not my intention and purpose. So that's unavoidable. There's nothing useful about that for me. I could later maybe make it useful, but at the time, there's nothing useful about her diagnosis, but it was unavoidable. Some stress is useful. By useful, I mean, it helps you get to a change you want, like remarriage.
Yeah.
That is a useful stress. Sending my second son for his first year of university, a useful stress. Supporting my first son who's away in the military, useful stress. Not just unavoidable, but actually useful. So once you know that a stressor you're facing is either unavoidable or useful, or maybe even both, then you got to say, okay, if I'm in, who do I want to be at the end of it? What's my intention? What's my purpose here? Once you know that, it doesn't make it easier. It just makes it simpler. I promised everybody that I would talk about that, the good news about this resilience cycle.
Yes.
So you hear about a change or even a possible change and your brain goes, loss, distrust, discomfort. As soon as you remind yourself that you have choices before you even list them, or think of a single one. If you just go, wait, as my mom of blessed memory used to say, you're still breathing, so you have choices. Okay, I have choices. That turns on your ventromedial prefrontal cortex, which quiets your amygdala, and then you list the choices for yourself. And you figure out which ones are best aligned with your purpose in that situation, like a parking ticket, right? Small change, but it can be a big stressor. So you lost, the money I was going to spend on that thing, distrust. Could I get away with not paying it? Would anybody know? Should I have gotten a ticket for that? Can I blame it on somebody else? And then discomfort, like I'm going to have to either take the time to appear in court or get online and figure out how to navigate this or write a check for money I was supposed to use for rent, whatever it is. Okay, it's unavoidable. Let's just say I've agreed that it's an unavoidable stressor. I have choices. All right, what's my goal? My goal is to get through this with the least financial and emotional impact possible without getting my car impounded. Okay. My choices are to pay it right now, fight it, set up a payment plan, try and talk my neighbor into paying it because it's their tree that grew past the sign, whatever. Then, so that's choice. Engagement is I pick one of those and I move forward. And that allows the goal, which is reunification. It's not reunification with the city. It's not reunification with my checkbook. It's reunification with my purpose.
I love that. Yeah, I love that when you talk about purpose and how it's like intent. It's intention. It's knowing what you're gonna, how you're gonna move through it. I did want you to talk briefly about, because I see this a lot, and I think it's actually something that, especially since COVID has been accentuated, is this idea of building connections and how that increases our resilience. Because there's a lot of people isolating, and I've done it. When I was going through certain times, it was so difficult. The first thing I want to do is I just want to isolate, get the ice cream out, and avoid life. But
one of the people on my research team got really uncomfortable with this because she was like, oh no, as the research, as we're going through all this data, she's like, it's building connections. I'm an introvert. Here's what we learned. Good news. This isn't about your number of connections. This isn't about the hundreds or thousands of people that you know. This is not about the breadth of connections nearly so much as it is about the depth of your connections. It's knowing of the people you know, who could you ask about a tax stressor? Who could you ask about a mother-in-law stressor? Who could you talk to and get the support you would need about a crazy new business idea stressor? Who's the right person to go to when you really need someone to tell you the truth? Who's the right person to go to when you really need someone who will just take you as you are and comfort you and love you like you are? It is about knowing the people you know a little better, far more than it is about knowing people you don't yet know.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. And the other one that I wanted you to just briefly talk about is the you mentioned about laughter. It's part of one of them. Is you talk about laughter. How does laughter increase our resilience? So we're talking about getting through it, but not just getting through it. Actually, realizing you have choices, being intentional, choosing your purpose, and making the choices that are going to allow you to be moving forward in that. And I just feel like laughter was, is a big part of this. It's like, can you laugh about your the stressful situation? Sometimes just laughing, it's like good medicine.
It is.
Yeah.
My background before I went to medical school, before I even considered going to medical school, I worked in theater. And I was at Second City, and I don't know if you're from Chicago or Toronto or Detroit, but Second City is an improv theater company, and everything we do is about laughter. And it really taught me, especially when I was working with companies and large groups from the stage or consulting with them, we learn a lot better when we laugh. It's chemical, and so much of this is neuroscience. If you were to say to me, boy, I'm going through all these really, really hard things, I wish there was just a way to make all these negative chemicals go away and just feel good, I'd be like, well, there is. Can you find something that genuinely makes you laugh? For me personally, it's damnyouautocorrect.com.
I haven't heard of that.
So when you get a chance. So these are text exchanges between people where autocorrect got in their way. And it is scare the person in the next cubicle funny. Like I have laughed. So I've been at work I've had to give somebody a really hard diagnosis or something, and I knew I just needed to change my brain chemistry enough. And I just get on here and I start laughing so hard that people are asking if I'm okay through the walls.
That's
So
awesome.
knowing what makes you gut laugh, whether it's videos of puppies, or pandas trying to climb playground equipment, or if it is a comedian, a really raunchy comedian, or a comedian that really just gets you and your humor, or if it's the Three Stooges, or if it is whatever it is for you, understanding what your laugh drug of choice is really changes your brain chemistry in only healthy ways. Not only that, you will change the brain chemistry of the people around you. Those people who can hear me laughing and have no idea why, they start to smile. We are social creatures as humans, and this laughter is contagious in some of the best possible ways. I talk about it in the book for managing discomfort. There are so many things, and you talked about this a little bit when we were briefly talking about managing discomfort. You said, you just want to like take a minute and have some ice cream or whatever. There are a bunch of behaviors that are helpful for distraction that only become negative if you overuse them. That's just a matter of time. It's a matter of how much time you put in. I have a couple of little games on my phone, like put the right colors in the right tubes kind of, or matching, whatever, that are really good unless I do them for hours a day. If I do them for hours a day, then it's getting me stuck in discomfort. But if I use them for 10 minutes or even a half an hour in an intentional way to distract myself, change my brain chemistry, let me come back to a problem fresh, then it's positive or neutral. Laughter is something that is actually always positive. Even if you spend a little extra time on it, it is always positive. It will leave everything from your immune system to your blood pressure to your solutions finding better off than before you tried it.
I love that. And we're talking about being a leader of transformation. Transformation is what you talked about. It's not just impacting you, it's actually impacting all the people around you. It's all the people that you go out and meet, because you're feeling a little bit different. The reason why that one struck me is because I remember as I was going through some of these difficult things, I lost my sense of humor. When I was in that, I was stuck in it. Now, there was a point where I was stuck in it, and then I decided, okay, well, now what? Right? What are those choices that I have? So I moved beyond that. But when I was in that stuck place, which I feel like there's a lot of people that are in that stuck place, it's how can you make those state changes, those shifts? I talk a lot about, change your focus, change your words, change your state with clients. And that's that state change where you can make, and I know that for myself, as I actually lost my sense of humor and regaining that made such a difference for me. And I appreciate that. And it's funny because the last thing I was going to ask you was, how do you recommend leaders start teaching their people to be more open to change? And I was like, maybe, there needs to be more humor. That would be one, right?
Humor is about recovering from the change that you're going through right then. So you can look at what your choices might be.
Yeah.
So when I work with companies, one of the first things they'll often have me come in and do is something that I call the change resistance exam. And it's like, when I was in theater, I did some carpentry. And when we would build a doorway or a door, one of the things we do is shut it and see if it's stuck. And then if it sticks, you can use some paper with blue ink, put it around the door, close it, and see what's sticking. This change resistance exam that I do is to try and find the spots that hold the blue ink. Where is it sticking, and use it. And so one of the things you can do, because you're absolutely right, one of the places that people really get stuck is the skill about opening to different possibilities. They know exactly what they want. They're aligned with your company's mission. They want what you want. And they genuinely believe that the vision they had for getting you there is the best, maybe the only way of being really successful. And so when something comes in, like a budget cut or a change in product or service that you're going to be able to offer, or a restructure of the organization in some way, and that path becomes unnavigable, they think, well, that's it. It can't be as good as it was going to be. And leaders feel often really understandably frustrated because there are lots of ways to skin a cat, but this person is really entrenched that nothing can be as good as the way we are going to do it. So one of the things that leaders can do to help prevent that problem is whenever you are asking your team to make a decision, and I'm talking about, should we do an icebreaker before this meeting we're running? Where should we order in from for lunch? Please don't ask them for one suggestion each. Ask them for 3. Every time. What music should we play while we're doing our, whatever it is, ask every person to give you 3 options, because opening their mind to the idea that there's more than one way to get to a positive outcome takes repetition. It takes building this skill. So you can do it in a lot of low stakes ways. How should we celebrate birthdays? What should we do for this person who's retiring? Ask everybody, not for one suggestion. We're like that. Please send me your suggestions. Please send me 3 suggestions by end of day tomorrow.
Yeah, it's clear. It's clear. I love that. Well, I think that's a great place to end. Thank you so much, Dr. G. We appreciate you. There's such a wealth of knowledge and perspective. I'm going to recommend that everybody go get a copy of your book, From Stressed to Resilient, because you unpack every single one of these 8 skills and
you
give
don't
ideas.
have to do them all. Pick the one that's most useful to you right now and just do that one.
Yes. Yes. Really, really powerful. So we're going to make sure that that information is on the website. So in the show notes as well, you of course can go to Ask Dr. and that's DOCTOR G.
Actually, either one works.
Okay.
Either one works.
Okay.
AskDrG.com.
Smart. Yeah. He's just like, I just got them both. All right. AskDrG.com. She also has a TED Talk out there, Doing Too Much is Good for You. And I know that will jangle some people going, what? So really, really great. I got an opportunity to listen to that. So we're going to make sure this is all in the show notes, but I encourage you to go learn more how to do this, because resilience is a skill that you absolutely need in your life to be able to be a leader of transformation, but even just to enjoy your life. Hello. To be able to be resilient to the change that's happening. Change is inevitable. It's how we handle it that makes the difference. So I encourage you to do that. Again, Dr. G, thank you for being here. And thank you for everyone who has been listening and watching this. We appreciate you. If you like this episode, or if you have a friend who maybe somebody that you know that is stressed, maybe they're stuck, maybe they're the person that Dr. G was describing earlier, that things happen in their life and it just gets heavy and weighty and they're struggling, share this with them. Give them the gift of encouragement, give them the gift of hope that there's a way through this with a few subtle changes, a few practices can make all the difference in their life. And you can be a leader of transformation in their life, as well as, of course, your own. So I encourage you that. We'd love to hear your stories. You can go on leadersoftransformation.com, reach out to us there. You can follow us on social. And as I said, please share this with a friend if you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for being here. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Leaders of Transformation real soon.